the implement business?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he'd been driving trucks for Snickers and wasn't too much income, so he just thought he'd like to get into the implement business, and Alice Chalmers was available at that time, so he met with the people from Alice Chalmers, and they set him up in the dealership in 1937, and quite a deal. The first, then you ordered your tractors on the railroad. They come in on a railroad car. He got 8 tractors came in, and they were on steel wheels back then. And then he didn't know how to even start them. They had to crank start them. And so they finally got them started, and they brought them up there, stored them in the building next door. They had a basement there, and they could drive them in. They kept them there. His the place of business then was right behind the post office. There was a little bit of a shack back there, that room enough to get one of those tractors in there and a few parts, and that's where they started business. At that time he had 2 slot machines in there, and he made more money with the slot machines than he did in the implement business that first year, till he got things going. And that was all kind of interesting. I remember when he ordered parts, he sent Snickers up to Peoria to get parts, $500 worth of parts. He thought he'd take a big truck. He could have hauled them all home in a wheelbarrow. Didn't mount to anything. Of course, they didn't have any money, and he had to borrow the money, so he went to the bank and borrowed the money so he could pay for those parts. And then he got these tractors in, and I got a list there at home of all the people that bought the first carload of tractors that my dad sold. Sold for about $950 for a tractor back then. Just think of that. Compared to today, it's quite different.
Yes. Did he?
How many employees do we have?
Yeah.
At that time, we had about 4 employees altogether. My dad and I, and 2 part-time mechanics and part-time sold parts, worked behind the guys, all in one little building there. And I remember salary-wise, they made from $12 to $20 a week. That was the salary that they made. Just think of that. I remember one guy come in to get a job from Dad. He said, "How much do you want?" And he said he'd like to have $1 an hour. And my dad said, "There's no man on earth worth $1 an hour. I'll give you 75 cents. Think of that, 75 cents an hour. Well, that's how things all started back then.
For you?
How old was I?
When you started?
11 years old.
And what was your first job
First job,
that you did here?
well, he tried, thought maybe I could be a mechanic, so I tore a tractor all down, going to put new sleeves and pistons in it. I got it tore down good, but I got everything all mixed up. Putting it back together, I said, "Nope, you're not meant to be a mechanic." So forget the mechanic business. Says you're always a talking. So I'm going to try you selling, see if you can sell anything. So that's what I did. So. At that time, we were up in that little building there. Right here was an International Harvester dealer, and there's a John Deere dealer over on the other corner on the way to Meridosha, and there's an Oliver dealer down the street. 4 different implement companies were here in 1937. And then a little later on, the Massey Harris opened up dealership down the street here, Manker Brothers. And so actually there was 4 different implement companies here, right here in the little town of Barnesville. And we're the only one that survived. Well, I was always the one that I always went out in the country, and I'm going to tell you a little story too about when my dad was the selling. He used to go out the country, but he'd go out there when they was milking their cows at maybe 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning. He'd carry a milk bucket with him, go out to the farm, and sit down and milk a cow while he's talking to him about buying a tractor or a combine or plow or whatever. And that's how he used to do it. He had to get up every morning and go out and call on the farmer. I didn't do that. But I love going out to the country and calling on people. It's very good. You get there at noontime, I just stay and eat noon lunch with them. And if it's middle of the day or morning, the lady would always have a fresh baked pie or something, so I get to try out the pie. And it's a very friendly relationship between the farmer and us. And I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And every time you made a deal, a lot of times I didn't even write nothing up. Just a handshake. A handshake was a binding. That was law. If you shook your hands on a deal, it was a deal. No matter if it was good or bad, it was a deal. So that's one of the big things that's so different today, is trust. You really had to trust in each other. And that was wonderful, I thought. So I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but you stop and think, for thousands of years, they went from a walk to a horse. Just think of that, as far as they ever got. But in my lifetime, I've seen them come from the walk to a horse to all this modern technology that we got today. Just think that in the last 90 years, that's all happened. And for thousands of years, nothing happened except go from a walk to a horse. And you wonder why. Why is all this happening now? I don't know the answer, but it makes you wonder. So then a couple different things. It's kind of silly how things go, but we had one farmer out here once said, "Bob, what's the fastest deal you ever made?" I said, "Oh, I don't know, probably 5 or 10 minutes." And he said, "I want to break the record." It's Elmer Luffenkamp out here. He come in, he was buying a tractor. So they timed it, took him 3 minutes, and they made a deal. That was the shortest deal. And the longest deal that I made was out of Bud Hackman's. He was wanting to buy a tractor. I got there in the morning at breakfast time. I ate breakfast with him. And he was an avid hunter. He liked to hunt, he liked to fish. So all he wanted to do was show me movies or slides of his hunting or fishing. So I was there for a noon meal. And we kept going on in the afternoon. I was there for the evening meal. And so after the evening meal, his wife Mary said, "Bud, buy that damn tractor. He's going to stay with us all night." So anyhow, he signed the order, and we got the tractor. That's the longest deal I ever made. My proudest moment. Oh, I had so many of those. I had many of them. But the thing that stuck with me, we were on our trip to see our daughter out in Colorado, and we were in Kansas, I think. And I looked over there and I seen this farmer had Alice Chalmers tractors and a Gleaner combine. So I said, "Well, let's just pull in there and see how they're doing." And my wife said, "Oh, don't do that. It's about dinner time." "Oh, I'm going to do this." So I pulled in there and knocked on the door. Lady come to the door, told her who it was and what I did for a living, and I was just wondering how things were going with them, with the farm. But then I noticed they had all good equipment. And she said, "Well, come on in for dinner." She invited us in for their noon lunch, and we sat and visited for a couple hours, then went on our way. But it just stuck with me. That was so nice. I didn't know from Adam. And just walk up the door and meet these people, and then they have you in for dinner. That was one thing that's really stuck in my mind. It was really good. How to make the deal?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you one time, down here, Mr. Hoopy, he wanted the tractor, and I was in there to visit with him several different times, and finally the third time I decided I'm going to get him sold that. But he never would sign the order, he never would buy the tractor. So anyhow, I got the order wrote out, he was sitting right there by me, and I laid it out there. I said, "Henry, here's what I'm going to sell you, and here's what the trade-in is. And I think it's really a good deal for it, don't you?" "Yeah." He said, "Everything's fine." I said, "Well, here," and I put the pen in his hand. I actually put the pen in his hand. Said, "You just sign right here, right there." And so he signed, and that's how I got the order. But that was the most unusual sale I made. But we had all kinds of gimmicks. At one time, if they buy a tractor or a combine, I'd give the lady a choice of a appliance for the kitchen, a refrigerator, stove, or whatever. And you'd be surprised how many women go and buy it, go and buy it. We need a new refrigerator. So that was one way I sold equipment. One time selling chainsaws, sold a lot of chainsaws in. And they had, if you was interested, you give them a free chain. If they buy a new chainsaw, you give them a free chain. Well, that's a big deal back then. So we did that. And then one time out Paul Ginder's, the Ginder family, you know the Ginders? There's a lot of them, about 7 brothers. Anyhow, I was out there trying to sell Paul Ginder a chainsaw. And he said, well, come a certain time, certain days. So I did. And we went back in the timber there where they cut. And here, all his brothers were back there. And they cut wood. All of them burnt wood back then. And so here I was demonstrating. I was there all day again, selling this chainsaw. So end of the day, when we came back to the house, Paulie says, boy, you work so hard today. I got to buy that chainsaw from you. You done good. So that's how I sold the chainsaw. But I spent the whole day back there cutting wood with all the brothers back there, the Ginder brothers. They were wonderful customers, that family was. Same piece of advice that my father gave me. My dad never had much of an education. He just got through the 8th grade and they had to go back to the farm. He lived on a farm and things were pretty tough back then. So he had to stay on the farm. So he said, son, if you remember one thing, the golden rule, do unto others as you like have them do to you. If you live by that, you'll get along great in this world. And I've tried to do that, and that's what I tell. If you remember that on that list of things to do, that golden rule is one of the main things. You stop and think. Many times I had a customer come in that was unhappy with, maybe they bought a new combine, it broke down, they come in and they're pretty unhappy. And they start kind of laying it into me, and I'd think, now what would I do if it happened to me? I might do worse than what they did. So I'd say, okay, I understand your problem. We're going to fix it. We'll get it taken care of. Let's go get a cup of coffee. They say, what? I said, yeah, let's just go get a cup of coffee. We're going to get your combine fixed. So that worked. But the golden rule is the main thing that we should all try to live by. And help other people. If people are in trouble and need help them out.